Climb aboard the NFL Express with Charles Barr and John Chapman, your one stop for all 32 NFL teams and news from around the league.
Welcome to NFL Express Podcast with me, host Chuck B, and John Chapman. And we're going to start out this episode completely different. I don't know if people know this or not, but John Chapman and I have been friends since 2001. That is a
friends?
Right. Yeah. We knew each other. We knew each other in 2001. No, I would say probably legitimately friends in 2000. I mean, we were kind of friendly, but we were also competitors too.
True.
Yeah.
At life and religion.
At life, religion, and stuff.
Music.
But John and I's friendship has always had a bit of hilarity in it, in the sense that he teased me a lot. He was the friend who gave me a lot of crap, and I gave him crap back. But he was just a little bit better at it than me. So just going to share a funny college experience between John and I.
I don't like the way this is going already, but yeah. Let's proceed. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, let's proceed. And be ready to respond with your story, because John's going to share one too. And then we'll get into fantasy football. So the year is probably 2004, 2005. We're probably juniors or seniors. Yeah?
I don't know what story this is.
Okay. So anyways, I dressed a little bit different. Anyone who knows, I'm a military brat, and everybody who knows that we shop at what's called the PX. And the PX has one kind of clothing and apparel, and that's just all sporting good. You just Nike this, Adidas this, Puma that's what you wear. And so my dad had gotten me this jumpsuit, and it was the Lakers color, and for whatever reason I thought that was really cool. But I was put it on one night to go to an open gym. And yes, this is ridiculous. This is embarrassing. But here's the deal. Your friends are supposed to protect you. They're supposed to tell you.
You looked so sharp, man. It would look good. It looked good.
Yeah. So I'm I walk in with my, stuff. I've got my bag with me. And I'm you ready to go? We're going to drive to the gym. John's you look great, man. Looks really good.
What you should have double taked right there.
No,
no way, man, dude. I'm telling you right now, that is a legit outfit. You look great, man.
Well, I didn't have those kinds of self-awareness or social skills at that time. So we get into the gym, and the first thing that John does in a group full of guys, he goes, "Hey, everybody, look what Charles is wearing."
No.
Kobe. Okay, that's how I remember it. Go ahead, tell your side.
No, well, yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say less dickish, because it was definitely a dick move. We get there, we know these people, and we all know stories about each other. It's not it's a bunch of random people, whatever. And so we get there, and Charles does his tearaways or whatever, and he comes out in this all yellow jumpsuit, looking like he's about to go warm up for the Lakers.
Yeah.
And I was oh, check him out. Let's go, Kobe.
and everybody
it was bad
laughed.
Timing. Everybody laughed, and Charles is at midcourt by himself, standing on an island.
On stage in front of everybody, just having a Mean Girls moment, just embarrassing me in front of everybody.
It's Mean Girls Wednesday, so that's appropriate. I definitely know that. This is what happens whenever you teach high school girls. This is part of the criteria there.
Excuses. But anyways, that was just a fun, college story, kind of about the origin of our friendship. I don't know if you have one to share, embarrassing or mean or otherwise.
The first one that came to mind, I told it recently. My family and we were walking past an amazing, beautiful fountain in Pasadena, California.
Oh.
And Charles, did you hear the drop there? The O? Oh. And so anyway, we decided, our college that we went to undergrad, they had this tiered fountain. It wasn't really anything special, but we're hey, let's get a picture on the fountain before we graduate. That was the idea. And so we're standing up on the ledge, and I don't remember who it was. This wasn't me. Somebody says, somebody stand on the brick in the water. It was just kind of trickling water. It wasn't that big of a deal. So Charles, gumption Charles, jumps, onto the fountain.
Second level.
This stone sculpture. It's a tiered step system fountain.
Yeah.
No big deal. But as soon as he gets up there, there's like 7 of us that's waiting to do it. And we recognize within like 5 seconds, Charles is getting drenched.
Yeah.
Like, this is not as calm or as peaceful or whatever we thought. Charles is getting soaking wet. And so we all like, Charles, get down. Like, you are dripping wet. And so Charles decides to like Spider-Man this thing and jump from the water part of the fountain to the ledge part of the fountain. And it does not go well.
Hold on. Can I pick up real quick? So I go and my feet are, I think my feet are going to hit, but they do not hit. They slip. And so what happens is that my hands go for the ledge, but my hands also slip. So what happens is from pretty high up, I land face first on the concrete in front of all my friends, and I hear everybody, not just my friends, but everyone who was surrounding the fountain go, "Oh!"
Yeah, it was not a funny event. Like,
no,
it wasn't funny. Everybody thought he died. His body bent like backwards. And it was just bad. And like his hands tried to catch his fall on the ledge, which is another 3 feet drop to the floor. And it's like concrete stove pavers, right? So face first and like not even face, like forehead first.
Yeah.
And like it was bad. And everybody was like, okay, call 911. Like it's over.
Charles is the kid from Glee now. He's in a wheelchair.
And it doesn't hurt that there's several attractive women around at the same time. And so everybody's like going into immediately, Charles, are you okay? Are you all right? And then Charles, like the most Charles thing ever, just, oh no, I'm totally okay.
Smiling.
He tries playing it off. He's bleeding from his head, his forearms, his knees. I'm pretty sure like he hyperextended his spine backwards.
Oh yeah.
Like, and so then it got really funny because he's trying to be like, no, dude, it's totally cool. Like, y'all still want to take a picture? So, like, it was just awful. And I think about anytime I see a fountain or running water, I think about you going head first.
All right, so that was just a bunch of our college stories, and if you guys enjoyed it, you can add us on Twitter and say that was funny, keep doing it, and if you don't, we're going to do it anyways. So, moving into, and again, John and I feel me more so than John. I have way more embarrassing stories. He's got funny stories, but I just embarrassed myself through 4.5 years of college. So
you put yourself out there, man. I'll say that. You definitely were like, you know what? This is who I am, and I'm just going to roll with it. And consequences be damned.
And they were. So
respect, man. I respect that. That's why we're friends.
Hey, for sure. And I didn't know that I kind of perceived myself differently than I do now, but I kind of just lived like with my own choices back then. And, I would love to tell people more, but the podcast is about football. So let's move on. All right. So Colts at the Patriots. We're missing Marlon Mack. We're missing T.Y. Hilton. We're missing Doyle. We've been missing Doyle. I don't know how much time we should spend on this particular game. I think they're going into Foxborough. I hope they protect Andrew Luck. But Julian Edelman returns. That's another way to free up Gronk because he's crossing all over that field. How bad does this one get?
It's the largest spread by Vegas standards. New England is 10-point favorites at home on a short week. It doesn't look good. This is a bad matchup on paper. However, it's going to take Andrew Luck throwing the ball maybe 50 times for this to be a game. It's going to be high scoring, but no, New England takes this one easily. They completely destroyed Miami last week. It was so tasty. I don't even like the Patriots, but I hate Miami.
All right, let's move on. Let's get to some of these good games. So, Titans at Buffalo. I think that defense is going to travel. Respect to the Titans. They beat my Eagles last week. We beat ourselves up pretty good, too. And like we were kind of discussing earlier, I really felt that the NFL refereeing really played a part this week, but the Eagles deserve that loss. But the block in the back on Hicks with 4th and 15, if he makes the tackle, it's over, but just blatantly knocked him out. Then you've got the Cleveland Browns Raiders game. awful. I mean, they just completely changed the complexion of the NFL games last week. I hated it. But again, respect to the Titans. I think they're going to go beat up on Buffalo. And John Chapman, I got to give you some credit. You ready?
Uh-oh.
All right.
Usually it doesn't go this way. Usually it's calling me out, but I'll take it.
Yeah. So John Chapman has been on the Corey Davis train for some time.
Yeah.
And
a little too long.
And I saw what can be, and I think I see whether Mariota comes out, he can stay consistent. Corey Davis can play some football. He can play some wide receiver at a high level. He torched our Eagles. So congrats to you for staying on that, and for people who have him in Dynasty, I think it's about to pay off. What say you?
Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of this kid just because of the way he plays. Kind of complete package, and unfortunately, he hasn't been in a system that works for him. So for this to finally start clicking, it's just one game. We'll see. But he hasn't had a healthy quarterback or a good offensive system in a long time, or in his entire pro career, or been healthy. So the fact that he is finally healthy, I think good things are on the way. I really, really do.
I think
not this week though.
No,
not this week though.
I think
no, he's going to be shadowed by one of the best corners in the entire league for the Buffalo Bills. So I don't think it is happening yet, but it's Corey Davis going to be a top 24 wide receiver in this league minimum.
Yeah, I think the Buffalo Bills though get. I don't know. I guess who knows about the consistency of this Titans team, but they should go in and win. But maybe they don't. So. This one's tough to call. I think Josh Allen, though, is going to get stifled by this defense. Moving on to the Giants at the Panthers. And again, actually, John, I'm going to let you break down this game. What say you about this high-powered Giants offense? Is it that high-powered?
No, it's not. It's terrible. They're one of the worst in the entire NFL, to be honest with you, as far as points scored goes. It doesn't matter who you surround Eli Manning with right now without a good offensive line. He's just not a good quarterback. Fantasy-wise, NFL-wise, this team, he has all the weapons, and I get it. Evan Ingram's out. Big deal. They are not a good football team. They're just not a good football team. They have the 29th ranked offense. So, yeah, you do with that with what you will. I'm not a fan of this offense. They've got to change the way they do things, and they're going to get destroyed. Panthers coming off of a bye week. They're relatively healthy. I really do think that Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey are going to have great games against this terrible Giants defense.
And next we have the Dolphins at the Bengals. The Bengals get back Burfus this week. Do you think that changes the complexion of this defense in a large way or not really?
Oh, yeah, big time. And their defense really isn't terrible. It's not the best out there, but their offense is hitting on all cylinders. Man, Andy Dalton is playing Pro Bowl level quarterback levels, which we've seen him do before. And so Burfict coming back definitely helps. I love the corners for the Cincinnati Bengals. I've talked about them before. I really do think Miami is the New England Patriots showed the league who Miami really is. And they had the easiest schedule to start the season. They won all three of those games. And part of being a good team is, winning winnable games, and they did that. But I think that the Bengals are just going to trash them. I really, really do. I don't think this one will be too close. Cincinnati at home. And again, Miami, their confidence is a mess. And one of the worst coaches in the NFL, I'm going to go with Gase. I know a lot of people, that's an unpopular opinion, but I just don't like it. Don't like
it at all. And the Dolphins have just decided, you know what? We had this running back who was playing lights out for us of the last 3-4 weeks of the season last year. You know what? Let's go away from him. That sounds like a really smart plan. Thank you for completely emptying the wastebasket of value for Kenyon Drake. Made a trade for him like an idiot. All right. Moving on. I did. That's embarrassing to admit. I made a trade for Kenyon Drake. It gets worse.
Coaching matters, man. With fantasy, with everything, coaching matters.
It involved Derrick Henry, so it wasn't that bad.
There you go.
There's a bright spot to everything. So I think that just one last note. I think those corners are legit. I think that the pass rush is okay, but I still think that Kenny Stills is going to get his this game. It might not be as much because he is facing some good corners.
I like it.
Next up is a game that who would have thought is going to have some relevance and some spunk to it. Baltimore at the Browns. The Browns came off of a devastating loss. They should have beat the Raiders hands down, but Goodell called his refs and he said, I can't let Gruden take another L. And that's what happened. So we've got the Ravens with Crabtree. Did you know that Crabtree has the most drops in the NFL the past 6 years?
Yep. Only because Des Bryant is no longer on a team.
True. But he looks like something's in his head. He's not playing the way I thought he would in this offense. John Brown's obviously the number one guy. But there's not much to say about this offense other than Joe Flacco put his foot down and said, no, this is my team for like one more year at least.
Hey, man, 3-1 in a tough division. They're playing very, very well. So if you look at the teams that they beat, they lost to the Bengals, who we just talked about, but they beat the Broncos and they beat the Steelers. So you got to give it to them. That's impressive for the Ravens. They're 3-1, and why stop now is what I say. Let's keep this winning. I don't know, train is what you call it.
Choo-choo.
Cleveland. I think they're going to beat Cleveland. I really, really do. Again, we talked about coaching and refs. Cleveland, they have played everybody close. Everybody they played, they've played close. The funny thing is, I want to see if we count exactly how many points that they have lost by so far. This one was a tie, so that's 0. Then they lost by 3. Then they lost by 4. Then they lost by 3. So I mean that's it. They've 10 points. They had all 4 games have been decided within that 10 points. It's a close game no matter what, man.
So
it's just what it's going to be.
One guy who really stood out to me in the Raiders game was Nick Chubb. It looks like he's got the juice. It's kind of one of those situations where it's reflective of the Kerryon Johnson situation. There are other good backs around him, but he's the best one.
Maybe. He only got 3 carries. He only got 3 snaps.
Okay,
so
but
he got 2 touchdowns on that. And so yeah, he needs more volume.
Dude.
Definitely.
Oh my God, he looked amazing. He looked amazing. All right, and I'm a believer, so just leave it at that. Next up, we've got the Green Bay Drama Packers. Seems like they're just one big saga of like a soap opera going on with them. And at the underperforming Lions, break down this game a little bit, John.
Well, it's going to be in Detroit, so it's indoors. So Aaron Rodgers versus Matt Stafford, it just sounds fun. I'm hoping each team throws the ball 50-plus times, and it seems like both coaches don't really care about the running game. So I think that's what it's going to be. So I think this could be one of the more entertaining games this week. So tune in.
Either way. Turn up
sure,
for what?
Let's do both those.
Okay.
Hashtag turned up. And so I'm going Detroit at home. I think that they get the win. And, man, I just love watching Matt Stafford play. I really, really do. And I think that he's going to get the W here.
It's definitely one of the things that makes Aaron Rodgers look human is when he plays interdivisional games. You're like, oh, there you are.
Yep.
You're pretty good, but are you the best? I don't know.
And kind of one of the things that sets Rodgers apart is when things go bad, he rises up. If it's bad weather, if it's a game he's not supposed to win, or it's against the Cowboys, or again it's bad weather, or it's against the Cowboys, those are the things. And so if that's going on, then things are good.
Yeah. Moving on to, oh gosh, this is just one of my favorite matches ups of the whole season, and I didn't know it was going to be. We've got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Chiefs at Arrowhead. Oh my God.
This is you, man. I want to hear it. This is your favorite team in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's not, but it's the second or third, It's definitely probably my third because I got to rep out with John. I like to support San Fran. But let me tell you a little Twitter response I had this week. Check this out. This is a list of people who rank below Blake Bortles in fantasy football. Rodgers, Brady, Matthew Stafford, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson. There's probably many a league where Blake Bortles was undrafted. I know it's a quarter of the way through the season, but it's kind of impressive. Let me just be honest. So,
well, they're two teams, right? Yeah. If Fournette's in and healthy, they're running the ball.
Yeah.
If Fournette's out, they completely change their game plan, and rightfully so, and they just air it out. So it's going to be one of the highest scoring games of the year, I think. This game. I really
see. I don't know. So here's the thing. I think that this defense is kind of made for this offense. I think that they're a fast defense. They're the fastest defense, really, in my mind.
You talking about Jacksonville?
They're ridiculously fast. And not only that, they're not just good in zone. They have two of the best man-to-man corners in the game. Now, Cheetah's a different story. He doesn't make sense. He breaks down game plans, so I'm not going to claim that anybody can cover him. Because as soon as he takes an angle on you, you're not. But do I think that they can do an okay job on him? I do. Do I think that putting Ramsey on Kelsey the majority of the game could really impact the way that game goes? I absolutely do, because they don't need to send 5 or 6 to get to the quarterback or to stop the run. So P. Holmes is going to be P. Holmes, and God, if you drafted him in Dynasty Startup this year, God bless you. You did the right thing. You drafted the Steph Curry of the NFL, and he's real. And if anything proved that last week with the Denver game, when he's running full speed and is being chased down by Von Miller, and Von Miller gets his feet and he says, you know what? I'm going to switch to the other hand and make an accurate throw on the run. My jaw dropped and I got pissed off because I said to myself, dang it, Donovan McNabb is no longer going to be Andy Reid's best quarterback that he ever coached.
No, and we go back, we talk a lot about the draft. We're both kind of big draft people. And, I had a pretty low grade. I had a second-round grade on Mahomes. And in my notes, I've gone back and read them. Like, man, what did I miss? I said he has to go to a great system, and he could be the best. If he goes to 28 out of the 32 teams in the NFL, he's going to be an absolute bust. Probably was wrong on the bust part, but he couldn't have gone to a better place than be with Andy Reid. It's just been awesome to see.
I agree with that assessment. I think that the way he's been coached, this West Coast offense that is a bit more simplified, but I think one of the things that sticks out to me about an Andy Reid playbook is that while other people are doing formations that really kind of just change variations, Andy Reid goes on these roles where there's probably 8 to 10 really different formations with movement, with guys doing stuff you just don't think they're going to do. It's a very confusing offense to guard. You have to pay attention to T-Hill anytime he sweeps. You have to pay attention to Hunt on the draw because
he looked great last week, man.
I don't think that there is a harder running back in football right now. I don't. I think he's the hardest running football player right now.
Yeah, I like it.
He fights for 3 or 4 yards every time he's tackled by multiple people.
And he hates going out of bounds. Like you could tell, I don't want to go out of bounds. I want to hit you for that extra half yard.
I mean, I hate to fawn over them because they're not my team, but the one thing that's disgusting about them is their defense. So Blake Bortles is going to score and Fournette plays, which I don't think he's going to. Do you think he is?
No, they already said he's out.
Jeez. Drafted him like a sucker. All right, John.
Offered you a trade for him today, man. That's all I'm saying.
I know you did. Broncos at the Jets. Tell me about this one.
Denver at Jets. Yeah, this is going to get ugly. I really do think this is kind of the NFL is a matchup-driven league, and I think that this is a bad matchup for the Jets. You don't want your rookie quarterback going against Von Miller, and I think Denver is pissed off at the way that this year has started and how it has gone, and so I think Denver is going to absolutely destroy the Jets. I just see it as a revenge game for losing to KC, that close one. I think it's going to be bad.
Me too. Michael Jackson bad. But I still think that the major players like, Inua and Roby, I think those guys are still going to get their, all of their stats, all their due. So, again, I'm with you. I think the Broncos are going to absolutely smash. Our predictions, I went back and listened to us last week. We nailed a ton of our predictions last week. The Broncos-Chiefs game, we did say that they were going to get upset, but kind of everything else we said was pretty spot on. You said that both Royce and Lindsey, we both said that we think they're going to play well, both of them, and that happened. So, tune in. Next up is the Falcons at the Steelers.
Oh, man. The highest Vegas over-under this week, they got to have 57.5 points. And this is what happens whenever you have two pass-heavy offenses and two teams that cannot play defense. Atlanta, man, if we would have known they've lost 3 Pro Bowlers for the season, I laugh. I shouldn't laugh at that. But they cannot play defense. So both of these teams, they have the exact same problem. They have to score in the 30s to be competitive. And even though they're scoring in the 30s, both of these teams, Pittsburgh's 1-2-1, and Atlanta is 1-3. I think whoever loses this is done. They're already at the bottom of their division. And you lose this and you start off 1-4. Man, could you imagine Atlanta being out of this division already, even though their offense is playing the way it is? I mean, Matt Ryan's numbers, holy cow, like, he's playing MVP level football. 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Like, he's looking great, but they can't stop anyone.
Yeah. You know what? I'm pulling for him. I mean, the guy really has had a hard time in the NFL. One of the worst Super Bowl losses I've ever seen, if not probably the worst. But he's playing on fire. Calvin Ridley came to play. He's a real receiver. And it kind of looks like what they're doing is, this is just my assessment, from one goal line to about almost the other goal line, they throw to Julio Jones. As soon as they get in the red zone, they throw to somebody else. I kind of picking up on a trend with that. I'm like, I don't really see them target him much, but they're definitely targeting everybody else. Hooper, Ridley, Sanu. So again, this is what a team for fantasy-wise that's kind of going a little bit more under the radar than they should. There's a ton of players on that team that are just bringing in big numbers. Freeman comes back this week. Does he have a bigger role or kind of just get him into the mix?
No, he needs to come back. He's going to have a role. He is the number one guy there, and Tevin Coleman, in his absence, has not been great. He's been okay, but he hasn't been great. So I think Devontae Freeman definitely plays a huge role. But, people, it's funny. People are, talking down about Julio. Like, oh, Julio's not the guy. He's leading the NFL in receiving by a considerable margin.
Right.
He has 500 yards receiving in 4 games. Like, Julio is fine. It's just the touchdowns. Calvin Ridley's leading the NFL in touchdowns, not receiving. He's leading the entire NFL in touchdowns, which is just crazy. So hats off to that guy. Rookie of the year for sure as of right now. And he's doing it on a very limited workload. Like, he's not getting targets. He's not getting catches. He is just hitting home runs. That's all he's doing. Mohamed Sanu has more catches and targets than he does. A lot of people don't recognize that. They just see the stat line and the highlights, and they assume something. But watch the game. It all makes sense.
Dang. Okay, Dad. All right, break down the next one. Go to your room, and you clean that fucking room. All right. All right. The Raiders at the Chargers. You break this one down. I'll get the next one.
Raiders at the Chargers. Man, can you believe that the Raiders have the second most offensive yards in the entire NFL.
They've had to.
They've had to. It's such a bad thing. And they just lost their right tackle for the season. And, I was reading, this is something that I don't like. I do not like switching sides for tackles in the middle of the year. I think it's stupid. I don't like it. Now, if it's an emergency situation, that's fine. So what happens is John Gruden comes in and says, I have to draft a left tackle. Donald Penn is not my guy. He's not what I want. So they draft Colton Miller, no problem. But what they do is they send Donald Penn over to right tackle, but not until the contract is basically renegotiated and all this kind of stuff.
Yikes.
So he had maybe 2 weeks to practice on the right side after a decade of playing on the left side. So what does he do? He tears his groin. It makes sense. Like, this is a coaching, hey, you're going to do something you haven't done with no practice and no training and no warm-up. Oh, by the way, now you're out for the year. This is Gruden number 1,000. This team is destined for the first overall pick. I really believe that. They're 1-3. I probably won't pick Oakland in any game this year. I just cannot find a way to think that they're favored. And on the other side, man, it's a home game for the Chargers, but if you saw the 49ers game, the 49ers fans outnumbered probably 4-1 in Los Angeles. So it's what it is. I'm going hardcore Chargers. I love Phillip Rivers, and I love that defense, actually.
Absolutely. I feel bad for Donald Penn. That stinks. Injured his groin 2 weeks in. 11 years, you said, at the left tackle spot? Somewhere there.
Don't quote me on that.
Somewhere in there. Just I can't imagine. It's like making love to somebody for
11 years.
Like,
there we go. Boom.
It's like having sex with somebody for 11 years, and then you know
Wonder what that'd be like.
you know everything to do. You played that game, and then you have sex with you get divorced. I guess I don't know, and then
It's getting dark quick, brother.
and then you have sex with somebody new, and you don't. You're just guessing. Okay, it's a new pinball machine. It's a new video game. All right, moving on. Vikings at the Eagles.
There's so much wrong with that analogy, and it just kept getting worse.
Sometimes you gotta embrace how bad it's getting and just keep going.
Right.
All right. Vikings at Eagles. Both of these teams, backs are against the wall. Believe it. That you don't think that the Eagles are somewhat concerned here. Look at the rest of their schedule. There's no cupcakes.
And this is what happens when you win your division. You get paired up with other teams. And Minnesota and the Eagles, they're in the exact same spot. Neither one of their schedules are getting easier.
No, we see Jacksonville. We just see the best teams. And then our own division, we'll see. But the Redskins actually look like they're going to be a tough out. The Giants, they're a little bit softer. The Cowboys are no slouches. They'll, interdivisional games. We're going to take one or two from each other. So the Eagles are in trouble if things don't turn around immediately, and it's got to start with this Vikings game. Problem is, Vikings need this game more than the Eagles.
Yep.
And one of the most talented rosters in the NFL is coming to play mad from last year, mad this year. Okay? The only thing that can happen is that the Vikings come in and just beat themselves. I really think that. I think that this team has got too much talent to come into this Eagles team, as talented as they are and with their record and what's on the line, come and put down an egg. It's hard to see it. But I'll say that's the way that the loss occurs, because Eagles are playing too complacent right now. The O-line's not really getting super nasty. When they're running the ball, pass protection looks a little bit lazy. Receivers are giving it up their all. This scheme from Jim Schwartz is a problem. I don't know if he needs the pressure to get there quicker, and that the scheme is predicated on that. That's a problem. This cover 3 scheme seems that a lot of offenses, at least if we win the games, they know how to win or lose. They know how to throw the ball at us for a lot. So we're stopping the run well, but again, it's I'm concerned. So I kind of favor the Vikings, as sad as that is, at home against Philly. I think they're here for a revenge game, and I don't know if Philly has woken up enough to receive the call. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to your D-line versus their O-line, which is the weakest point of their team and the strength of your team. So it's a bad matchup on paper for the Vikings, and we saw that in last year's NFC Championship. But all those things you said, I'm with you, man. Vegas has this as a coin flip game. Usually the home team gets 3 points. And that's exactly what this is. So Vegas is saying we don't know who's going to win. I'm going Minnesota as well. I think that they have to have this, and I don't think that the fight is there for you guys yet. I haven't seen it.
Right. It has looked like a team they won their 2 games on talent and a drop ball by a Colts receiver. That's it. The Atlanta game, they kind of looked like they were up for the challenge. They look rowdy. That game I saw my Eagles. The past 3 games, I haven't seen the Eagles that I know. It looks like Michael Bennett's getting a bit more snaps, and that actually panned out this week. He played very well. He was consistently disrupting plays. I don't know if you noticed this, John, but they took out Brandon Graham in a lot of the last series, and Barnett and Bennett got more of the snaps than Graham, and Graham has been struggling a little bit more. I don't know if he gets his contract in the end. What do you think about that?
I don't know, man. It's rough to pay. You guys have a lot of people locked up, which is great, but you have so much depth there, just like what we saw with Vinny Curry, where you can afford to let somebody like that walk, and you're okay. So I don't know. Y'all's contract situation is going to get rough with Carson getting older. You've got 2 more years. Till it gets insane. So
2 more years, and some guys coming up on contracts again this year. And hey, it is what it is. So again, moving on, I do think that there's going to be some points scored in this game. I think that they're going to get at each other, but I think Cousins ends up having more than wins. Rams at the Seahawks. Go ahead and break down. You know this division better than anybody.
I don't know. I was surprised to see that this wasn't the largest spread in the NFL. The last time that the Rams played Seattle, that's when they blew them out in Seattle, and they're going back. Not only is Earl Thomas gone, which I want to talk about a little bit, but their backup free safety is gone. They just brought in TJ Green off the streets, and he's going to be starting with – he hasn't played in this scheme. And I'm telling you right now, man, the Rams are for real. And they're my number 1 team in the NFL right now just because they're the most complete team. I like the Kansas City Chiefs offense better, even though the Rams offense is no slouch, but their defense is legit. So they are a complete team, and their special teams are actually freaking awesome. Shout out to Coach Fossil. I think that guy's one of the – if you watched Hard Knocks last year, he was the saving grace for that coaching staff, the special teams coordinator that came in when Jim Fisher got fired. Also, why the hell is Jim Fisher doing play-by-play? That was the worst game ever that I listened to in his play-by. It was awful. God, he's so terrible. How can you suck so bad at everything?
I don't know. That was a pretty passionate, remark there. So we got the Rams
I said Jim Fisher. It's Jeff Fisher. Did I say Jim Fisher?
No, I don't think you did. I think you said Jeff Fisher. Right the first time.
Oh, it's Jeff Fisher. Internet people that are going to tweet at me. Jeff Fisher.
Gotcha. So we've got Seattle just getting smashed on at their house. Again, one of my predictions in our preseason podcast was that I don't think that Russell Wilson's going to stay upright.
It's not looking good, man. It is not looking good for Russell Wilson. He is having by far his worst season to date.
Good luck.
Not even close.
Good luck, Russell. I'm sorry that your coach has provided you a poor offensive line and I guess scheme that you have to roll out of every situation and make throws for your life. And you're amazing. Apologize to you. Next up is the Cardinals at San Fran. Obviously, John Chapman's going to break this one down, but before he does, I want to say, what's up, Josh Rosen?
Dude, kid's good.
You look good, bro.
I hated that they got him. Josh Rosen was my number 1 overall player in my draft board, my big board. I took a lot of flack for that. I don't care. I thought the kid was special. And we're already seeing one start in. He had 2 plays that he made that were just like, what the hell did he just do? You talk about NFL throws and throwing an opposite hash in the college on like the deep out. That's kind of the tough one. This kid he's for real. Now, he's not consistent, and he's playing behind a terrible offensive line with, again, very poor coaching. But he is for real. Having said that, I think this is the easiest game on the 49ers schedule, and if they lose this one, it's going to get bad.
Michael Jackson.
49ers should have won the game last week against the Chargers, a good football team. Arizona is not a good football team. This is a 41-point spread, the lowest projected score in the entire NFL this week. So I do think the 49ers win this game, but it's going to be ugly. I'm telling you that right now. It's going to be bad.
Every time you say bad, I'm wanting to say Michael Jackson bad. So stop it.
I like Michael Jackson bad, so that's good. Michael Jackson bad is good.
All right. Moving on to the Cowboys at the Texans. We predicted that the Cowboys would get their Cowboy win over the Lions, and that's what happened.
It shouldn't have.
No, it shouldn't have. But like we said, that's just the way. That's the way they get their wins. I think that they're going to get their win here too. Against the Texans, I like the way the Cowboys defense is playing. I think Dak has enough to win a game like this. I'm not saying he's like the future, because I don't think he's the future anymore. And we didn't think he was the future back then. I don't know if we're still sticking to our guns on this one, but I feel pretty solid about that. The Cowboys taking Zeke instead of Jalen Ramsey in the end will hurt them. But
oh yeah. Well, I mean, you took Zeke, right? Great. You have the 30th ranked offense in the NFL through 4 weeks into the season. You're 30th. You're not top notch. You're not, and so I don't know. It's a terrible managed team, top to bottom. And I'm picking Houston here. Actually, I think that Houston will start clicking. That defense is getting better and better, I think, and I'm taking Houston. Houston, the thing is this. They are the little brother to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas, and they take offense to that, whereas the Cowboys don't really give a shit about anything. So I think that they bring a little bit extra. So I'm going Houston here.
Yeah. How about this game? Probably the most kind of difficult game to predict just because the Redskins are coming off of a bye. And the Saints seem to be coming back to themselves. But it's in New Orleans. So I get it. But what do we think? Is this Redskins team real, or they were kind of just a little bit fake like Miami was?
They're not fake, but Alex Smith is great. And what I mean by that is he will never beat his own team. And so what this is it's kind of like it's the person that doesn't ever punch you but allows you to hurt yourself somehow. And so they just wait. They're the most boring division leader there is out there, them in Miami, but they just allow you to make your mistakes.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, you know what? We're going to score 24 points, and we are going to methodically take time off the clock and not make mistakes and dink and dunk, and we're betting you can't get past 24. And if you do, you win.
Yeah.
and they're playing, if you look at who they're playing with New Orleans getting past 24 points. It's at home. It's in the Dome. We know what Drew Brees does whenever he's at home. And on top of that, they are getting back Ingram. I think Ingram goes off, man. He has seen what Alvin Kamara can do in his absence, and people have been saying they don't need him back. I'm telling you right now, Ingram's going to run pissed off, which he always does anyway. I think New Orleans wins this one handily.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It'll be interesting to see Ingram, because he's not just angry for those reasons. He's got a contract to earn next year. Am I right?
Exactly correct. So his time in New Orleans is done. It was done before Kamara went off, but the suspension made it worse. And, yeah, it's done. So he is playing he's probably going to be one of the top free agent running backs, him and Tevin Coleman probably.
Yeah.
So he's got to prove that he's that guy and get one of those crazy deals like Jerick McKinnon got, because he's auditioning right now.
Gotcha. All right, so that has been NFL Podcast. This is jl_Chapman on the other end, and myself, host Chuck B.
That's you.
Don't at me, fool. So
why? No, you want them to at you. That's why you told me.
Oh, no, at me. Anyways, that was cool. All right, peace. Next week.